Just hit record. Got it? Got it. Okay. Yay. Okay, so we've gotten over all the super basics. Let's jump in and let's talk about fire cider. So this is a book by Rosemary Gladstar. I don't actually have it in person, and I'm sorry that I don't. I feel like I should have a whole encyclopedic library to pull out, and I don't have that. But anyway, we're going to be using one of her recipes. There's so many variations on fire cider. It's really beautiful. You can just kind of use what you know works for your body. You can avoid what you know doesn't work for your body. You can use what you have in your pantry, like if you have juniper berries, if you have rosemary. We're going to go through all those things. Okay. So let's boost our immune system. The whole reason that we're doing this is to make a tincture or a tonic that we can kind of dip out of this fall and winter. And, you kind of have to keep doing this. It's not like this is going to last us too terribly long. But the recommendation during germ time is about a teaspoon a day. Some people go higher. Some people do a shot a day. Some people wait until they actually feel the vulnerability. And so last week we had Amy Rattenberry, our acupuncturist and Chinese medicine practitioner, talking to us about the metal element, and kind of as we move into the winter season and we're getting cold and things are starting to enter our body, the germs are starting to enter our body through like the wind points. And I'm not an expert in this, but just be really, really aware of your neck and covering that up. And I'm a little hot actually right now. But I don't go anywhere in the winter without a scarf, and it's because of what I've learned from Amy. So really thinking about covering our necks in the winter, because that's one of the first places that we can become vulnerable to germs and things. So anyway, back to the fire cider piece, what Amy was saying was this can be really helpful. It's a very heating and warming tincture that we're going to be using. It can be really helpful as a prevention or a very early intervention. It doesn't work so well if you wait until things settle in. So for those respiratory and bronchial things that are happening, don't wait for things to settle in. You got to just hit it if you're using this kind of stuff as a prevention or early intervention. Go PowerPoint. Do this every week. Doesn't want to go. There we go. Okay. All right. So I'm actually going to read this whole slide just because I find it fascinating, and not all the slides are like this. But anyway, so as legends go, during the 18th century plague epidemic in Europe, a band of thieves robbed the homes and graves of those who were sick and dying of the disease, but never fell ill themselves. Their secret, an herbal tonic known as Four Thieves Vinegar. When the authorities finally apprehended the individuals, they agreed to grant them freedom in exchange for the recipe. They wrote it up and posted it on the walls of the city so every man could make it for himself. Over the years, many versions of this story exist, as do variations of the recipe. The original included several herbs and roots steeped for days in white wine vinegar. Scientists believe the concoction worked against the plague because it repelled insects, including fleas, which spread that disease. So just kind of coming down, take 3 pints of strong white wine vinegar, add a handful of each wormwood. We're not going to work with wormwood tonight, but we just did a couple weeks ago. Wormwood, meadowsweet, wild marjoram, sage, 50 cloves, 2 ounces of campanula roots, 2 ounces of angelic, rosemary, and horehound, and 3 large measures of camphor. Place the mixture in a container for 15 days, strain, and express the bottle. Used by rubbing it on the hands, ears, and temples from time to time when approaching a plague victim. So kind of wild, right? So, when we hear about or buy stuff, with thieves in it, it's connected to this kind of folklore, this story, and nobody will ever know the real truth, but it's pretty phenomenal to think of traditional wisdom, maybe coming from some criminals, that, kept people safe and healthy from potentially the bubonic plague. Don't know. Interesting, right? Okay. So, disclaimer, this is a folk remedy with traditional knowledge being passed through the generations. This is not evidence-based and it's not super research stuff. So do with this information what you will. Many do believe it helps boost immune systems. This is a warming tincture that will get circulation flowing. People with clotting problems or if you're on blood thinners should be aware. It can also be agitating to people with acid reflux and too much warming for people with excessive qi. And that's something that Amy talked about last week. So if you have a lot of that energy and kind of coming back into what Patty DeLate, our nurse practitioner, was talking about when we went into the Ayurvedic doshas, if you have a lot of heat already in your body, I think the kapha, I wish she was here and I could ask that question, but if you already have a lot of heat in your constitution, this might not be amazing for you. And so what you can do is just kind of pick and choose, like what makes you too hot? What do you need to cool down? I'm one of those people, I'm more of like a vata type where I'm cold a lot. So this is like my dream come true tincture. And I need stuff like this to stay warm throughout the fall and winter. I really do. Like I always have to have ginger tea and like real ginger tea, making it with the roots kind of stuff. Like I can't mess around because I get really cold. I'm a wimp. We're not going to go through these recipes. I just want to point out that there are so many variations on this recipe. You can go online and find so many things. It's typically the commonalities are the ginger, the horseradish, the garlic, and you're going to put that in vinegar to hold that in as the tincture, to preserve it as the tincture. One of the recommendations though, honestly, and if you guys have great herbal recommendations, I want to hear from you guys, but one of the recommendations is really don't find this stuff online. Don't get this kind of knowledge necessarily online. Go back to the books. Like really get a nice herbal book and learn from the women who have shared this knowledge. I'm sure there's some guys out there too, but I think of women that are sharing their herbal knowledge. So Rosemary Gladstar, Janice Schofield. So pop out names if you guys have any, like what books, what encyclopedias, and I'm sure that there are some really great ones at Homer Bookstore. So support our local people and really go back to the books for this stuff, because the other piece of it, and it's super unfortunate that this big lawsuit thing is happening for fire cider, because what it could be indicative of is people starting to own and take and remove information. And I think that, you know, I was listening to a podcast recently with Rosemary Gladstar, and she just basically, it gives me the goosebumps to even think about it, but she said, we're at an amazing time in history where we have so much to gain and we also have so much to lose. So really hold on to this kind of information and get it from books. So there's that. There's my emotional plea there. Okay, let's go through the ingredients that we're gonna be putting in there. What do you need? I'm sorry.
Oh, I'm
sorry.
No, I actually bought her book like a month ago at Lotus.
Oh, good.
And I got so curious about the story. I looked it up online. So they did win the lawsuit.
Oh, dang it.
They did. Rosemary and her friend.
Oh, yay!
Won. Yeah.
Yay, Rosemary.
And not that this was ever the intention, but the people who tried to trademark it did go out of business.
And that was, I mean, that is the sadness. And that's one of the things that Rosemary was saying in this particular podcast that I listened to was, you know, nobody wants to see anybody get in trouble. And I mean, we all really, like in the cottage food industry and this kind of a thing, the local kind of movement, we want to see people succeed. Mm-hmm. So just call it what you will, but, you know, don't claim it. This is traditional.
And the reasoning behind it was if they weren't going to do it, somebody was.
I know, I heard that too. And you know what? They're probably right. Mm-hmm. They're probably right. I mean, seriously, just think of like Monsanto for a second, what's happening with the patenting of seeds and things like that. So much to gain, so much to lose. Like, let's stick with what's growing in the ground and what we can learn in books. That's what I say. And what we can also just share orally too. Like I think this is really, really important stuff. However you feel about something like fire cider, I don't care if people, take it seriously or not. I don't even really care. But I think that this is something, if you do believe in it, and you do believe that it works for you, pass it on to your kids, pass it on to, the next generation orally, so they just know it and teach them how to do it. Okay, garlic. All right, so we've been talking a lot about phytonutrients. The superstar in garlic is allicin. So little trivia, when you're chopping garlic, you always want to let it sit out on the cutting board for about 10 minutes before you actually cook with it. There's just something really magical in this phytonutrient, a superpower in garlic that kind of comes to life, and it starts to release these antioxidant qualities. Okay, so that's allicin in the garlic.
So do you mean after when you have it cleaned up and chopped up?
Yep, chop it. Like what I like to do is, how you crush it, and then I let it sit. And I'm learning that about broccoli too, the sulfur foods, and I can't wait till November when we start talking more about the therapeutic diet stuff. But there's something really magical about broccoli sprouts, and it just starts like digesting itself for the human body. It's kind of cool. But anyway, so crush it, let it sit for 10 minutes before you start to work with garlic. What it does is it starts to promote the antioxidant activity, and then it forces the vitamin C. So allicin, the phytonutrient, works with vitamin C to kill the microbes. So when you're thinking about the antibacterial, antifungal, antiviral, all that anti, these things have to work together. So that's the weird thing that we do kind of in the Western world a lot, is like, well, we try to silo down. Well, we want allicin. I only want to take allicin. It's like, well, allicin works with vitamin C, and vitamin C gets, built by these other phytonutrients. So it's all this matrix, and that's why we have to stay with whole foods. Okay, enough about that. Antibacterial, antiviral. Ginger. Ginger is all those things and more. Antiviral, antifungal. The famous phytonutrient in ginger is called gingerol. It helps with the anti-inflammatory. It has anti-inflammatory properties. It helps with nausea, and it promotes digestion. So some considerations, people that have blood disorders, or if you're on an anticoagulant, just check in with your provider. And really, that's my full disclaimer, check in with your provider before you decide to take anything like anything medicinally. But anyway, ginger really gets things moving in your body. And so some people that have blood disorders can't take it. Horseradish, this amazing, most beautiful horseradish. If you guys know Rob from the farmer's market, he harvested this for us today. He's such a sweetie. So this took 3 years to grow. This is 3 years worth. And so very powerful. We're going to work with this. It's antibacterial, antifungal, antiparasitic. It's very astringent, gets in there and cleans things up. It aids in digestion. Definitely cleans the sinuses out. You just take a little bit. And, Holly and I, wherever you are, we were in tears earlier. You just can't be around this stuff without like tasting it all. And it's like, oh my gosh, that one's intense. Okay, so considerations for horseradish. If you have stomach ulcers, be aware, just because it can kind of agitate there. Kidney issues, which is interesting because it'll also help with kidney issues. So you just really want to work with somebody who knows what they're talking about. And then if you have an underactive thyroid as well. So just things to know about for horseradish. And there's tons more, but we're going over the big parts here. Jalapenos, they're high in vitamin A and vitamin C. They have antioxidant properties. They help with digestion. They promote digestion and circulation. So considerations with jalapenos are for heartburn. Some people, it helps their heartburn, actually. That could be another class. But heartburn, issues with the what do I want to say, a more vulnerable immune system. Jalapenos can trigger that in interesting ways. And it is a very, very warming food, as like everybody knows. It's a very warming food. So just be really aware, like when we're condensing this stuff and we're going to take it as a tincture. So I want to warm you up. Onions, antiseptic, antibacterial, antimicrobial. The famous phytonutrients with these guys are quercetin and Maricitin. They support the anti-inflammation. They're very helpful with hay fever, asthma, and cardiovascular things. So, if you know anybody that is struggling with allergies, like any sort of real allergies, like really think about the quercetin and bump that up. And like we learned in our phytonutrient class, I'm kind of visual, I think about a capital Q and the little dewap that comes down from the Q. It actually grabs zinc. It grabs the zinc and it pushes it into the cell. So like that's an example of how quercetin is working with zinc, and you heard about it a lot with COVID, take your quercetin and your zinc and your vitamin C and all that stuff. Well, the reason why you take the quercetin with the zinc is because the quercetin takes that and it pushes it into the cell. So anyway, quercetin is super helpful. It doesn't work alone. It's very, very helpful with any sort of allergy issues. So really bump that one up. Onions also have chromium, which is a mineral, and that is supposedly the magic bullet for diabetes. So it really, really helps regulate blood sugar. So onions are great for that, as is Swiss chard, high in chromium. Okay, lemons. They're high in vitamin C, antimicrobial, antibacterial, antifungal. They have extra vitamins to help with our digestion. Some considerations, they do have oxalates, so just be aware of that if you have kidney issues. And they are a high pesticide crop. So always choosing organic if you can. They have a really thick wax around them, and it's a high pesticide crop, and then they have a wax around them. So you just don't want to be messing with those chemicals, in my opinion. So get organic if you can. Okay, and then we're going to use raw apple cider vinegar to hold all of these ingredients together. So raw apple cider vinegar is antibacterial, antifungal. It helps clear sinuses. It boosts your energy. It has potassium, magnesium, phosphorus, and calcium, and it helps with nutrition, absorption. And it, I think most of us know it also does a million other things, but we don't have the for sure evidence-based research behind it, but a lot of people have really good experience with raw apple cider vinegar in a variety of different ways. Let's see. And then honey. I put honey on the supply list, and I apologize if you brought it tonight. We're not going to use the honey tonight. That's what you use at the end after it's steeped for about a month. But raw local honey, so good. And it is antibacterial, antiviral, antifungal, full of antioxidants. It boosts your immune system. It helps with food absorption. It helps with allergy relief and prevention. So a really nice thing to start taking in the springtime before the allergies really start to hit. All right. So we're going to start getting chopping here pretty quick. However, I just want to say, last night, this is just on my mind, so I'm going to mention it. Last night I went to the Spark, and there was a walk there because it's National Recovery Month, and so it was through the hospital. And they did a little demonstration on Narcan, and so that was really interesting. I'd never seen how that, was applied and all that stuff. Anyway, they were talking about the Narcan, and it's safe to keep in your purse, like if your kids get in it, and it's okay if you give somebody another dose, and how safe. And I just couldn't believe, there aren't any side effects, and this is so interesting. And I had so many questions, and I thought in my mind, which was interesting thought for me, we need more drugs like that, that don't have the side effects to it. And then anyway, it just immediately dovetailed into what we're talking about tonight. We have pretty strong medicine right here that really treats us right, and it's safe for kids, and it's, this is safe stuff. I mean, we are going to condense it and it's going to be really powerful, but we're working with very safe things too. So just reminding myself, because I think I'm so used to like hearing about pharmaceuticals with like the 8 pages of side effects to them all. So I was like, oh, well, we're not going to do that. So I just wanted to add that. I thought that was kind of funny. And then when we were doing our work with the wormwood and yarrow and plantain, that's very strong medicine. Wormwood is a very strong plant growing locally that we get to work with. Okay, so let's get chopping. What we're gonna do is we're just gonna kind of tag team. My lovely assistant, Benjamin Dickson, this is my son. Don't hesitate to ask him for help. Raise your hands so everybody knows who this is Ben. Anyway, don't hesitate to ask him for help. He's a trooper. So what we're really going to do is we're going to take our jars and we're just going to start filling up our ingredients, and then we're going to top it off with our vinegar. So we have a few. Oh, we have a few cutting boards here. And so I think we just can, maybe work in teams or, however it works for people. Does anybody not have some of the ingredients? Do horseradish? Yeah, I've got horseradish. Okay, so Jackie online, I'm gonna just use this cutting board cam that you see the horseradish on right now. And I'll just show you how I'm gonna peel it. And then everybody else can do it with. Okay, so before I get started, I wanna show Jackie online how cool this all looks. So hard to get the visual. Anyway, so my inclination here is, when we talked about beets in classes past, and if you weren't here, we talked about beets in classes past, where like if this is the beet, and these are the greens of the beet. So right here where the shoot comes out, with beets, that's the most powerful part of the plant. And so that's a really, really important part of the plant to always eat. So my inclination is that we should really do that with horseradish. I don't know that for sure, but I think that we should do that. Let's really focus on that in between, and we'll use all this too. But I'm just thinking that there's a lot of power here, and the reason why is, it's like putting a lot of life into that right there. So, okay, what I'm gonna do is I'm just gonna peel, and Rob did a really nice job washing, but I think I am gonna peel. Would you actually get a peeler? It might be in a dishwasher. You can wash it up for me, darling child.
So I didn't bring a knife either.
That's okay. No. We'll get this done.
I have a question, Jenifer. So is the beef better to cook or keep raw?
The leaf?
On the beef, the powerful.
Yeah. I cook beets. It's very rare that I have beets raw. Like I might do it like on a salad every once in a while, but I definitely cook the root vegetables typically.
Right, and what about the leaves though? Like, would you saute them?
I do, yeah.
Okay, and what, like olive oil and salt and pepper?
Yeah.
Okay.
And I'm forgetting the vitamin breakdown kind of a thing, but what's in the green combined with what's in the red go really nicely together. So it's nice to have the green and the top and the bottom together.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah. Okay, so this is what I'm doing. Oh, I'm sorry if that wasn't in the camera, Jackie. I'm just whittling this away. And oh, another name I wanted to share with you guys, if you're looking for resources kind of a thing, Marjorie Wildcraft. She is definitely one of my favorite people to follow. She has a website, the Grow Network or something like that. But I think she lives between Puerto Rico and Texas. And so she lives in a warmer climate, so not everything that she talks about is applicable for us. But man, she knows what she's talking about. Like when it comes to backyard chickens or raising rabbits or making fire cider, she's got her own recipe that she does. And she just, I don't know, everything is just really reasonable and easy. So, okay. So what we're gonna do is actually, Marjorie, the reason I thought about Marjorie is because she's pretty quick and dirty about everything. She's like, throw it in, like she doesn't even peel her garlic all the way. She's like, put it in there kind of a thing. I am going to because that's just my style. I'm picky. But not, we're just gonna steep this for about a month. So that's what we're doing. All right. So that's what we're gonna do, you guys, is let's make sure everybody's got horseradish. How about like everybody start with horseradish and that way we're all in horseradish land together. I don't know. So maybe you guys can kind of split this.
Okay.
Work on it. And you don't have to start with horseradish.
Are you making some, Carol, or are you just watching? Oh, okay, yeah, that's okay. It's
Probably too much for us.
That is you, Janet.
No, I don't. Oh, yeah, we
So inspire me tonight to go home and.
Well, yeah, and if you have a
Yeah.
little tree garden,
Oh, here's some.
Oh, okay, cool.
or throw it out in the woods by your place.
Nice, thank you.
All right, then okay, so I guess that's the other part that you guys can ask.
Yes.
Okay.
Oh, yeah.
You guys can have that. Hey, Molly, what's up? Could you like run it up and see if we have more, very nice up there?
You got it.
All right. And somebody can use a peeler. You want to just peel? Maybe we can't all be in horseradish land. Oh, thank you. Benjamin Dickson.
How much are we going to need?
Yeah, how much?
Mom.
Okay, so you have.
I'm gonna turn this light on, guys.
Mom, how much horseradish?
A lot. Okay.
Oh, is it?
Yeah.
I haven't tried this yet.
So Jackie, are you making this at home?
No, I'm not. I didn't have all of the ingredients.
Are you in Homer?
Yeah.
Oh, gosh. I did the wrong volume. I'm really sorry about that. Do you just need horseradish?
No, I had a hard time finding a couple of items organic
Oh, I know.
or at all, but I do prefer organic. And
Okay.
did you grow your horseradish? You have so much.
Okay. Say that again.
Did you grow your organic or your horseradish?
A local grower from the farmer's market did. His name is Rob.
Oh.
Is it Heimbeck? Something like that. Yeah.
I would
Yeah.
have never thought to look there.
Well, no, it wasn't at the farmer's market. He actually harvested this just for us at request. So
Oh, my
if you want to
goodness.
swing by SVT, I'll save some horseradish for you though.
Okay, maybe
Yeah?
tomorrow.
Yeah, I'll save some horseradish for Jackie.
Oh, thank you so much.
Yeah, you bet. So just stuff it right in there, coil it in there. I don't think that there's like a right or a wrong.
That's okay, I just want to watch it. Yeah.
I think that this is gonna be very hard. I would chunk that off and probably carve it and use all of that. Yep.
Should I cut these down a little bit more though?
Yeah, don't put the green in. So anyway, Jackie, you can, if you want to anyway, cut up what you do have and then fill in the rest.
Yeah, I was gonna.
I don't. Nope. I don't do it either. Yeah.
You wanna
It's gonna like.
make one, Mark?
Up, you know?
Get busy.
Yeah.
Yeah. Here, you can have that. There's an extra cutting board down here, guys. If anybody needs it,
There's a
just
few more.
let me know what you need. And I'm just peeling my garlic too, or ginger, peeling my ginger, throwing it in there. I also got some turmeric, if anybody else wants to throw in turmeric. Welcome to some, you want some? Oh, sorry, Mark.
Yeah, no way.
I'm fine, okay?
How much of it?
I would the whole thing, Donna. Turmeric is an anti-inflammatory, so I would really go for it. Yeah.
Is there a compost?
Yes. You know what? My bag is probably full. So let me get another bag.
Mild spicy.
Spicy? They won't touch ginger. Yeah.
Or they just didn't affect it.
Yeah, maybe I should try it. I mean, it's gonna be good for the soil anyway. Oh my goodness. Can I trade you places? I'm just gonna do the turmeric under this camera. Look at how gorgeous this is, how bright. Oh my goodness, it's amazing. Okay, so Rosemary Gladstone says that the way that humans communicate with plants is by singing. So if anybody wants to sing for us. But we should actually have some music though.
I might sing solo,
So, yeah, in your car.
so you can't hear me.
Yeah. I've actually been thinking about kind of signing up for, well, not kind, signing up for like a 6 or 8 class. For what? So I've been thinking about signing up for a 6-week plant course, like with somebody like Rosemary or Marjorie, and seeing if you guys want to do that on like once a month. We can kind of go through with a little bit of a curriculum. I don't know. Playing around with the idea.
Sounds like fun.
Yeah. Can you what? All right, Ben has got some horseradish ready if anybody, you need a jar?
Oh, no, I'm gonna walk.
Are you sure? Okay.
Yeah, thank you.
Anybody need any horseradish?
And you don't want the name of it, I just want to know.
Lily, you want to make a fork?
Sure. Like, you know, the base one now, on Thursday. And, as like you.
That knife is
I don't know what
confusing.
So we want the whole garlic thing, the whole clove, I mean, the whole bowl.
Yeah, and then if I don't know.
No, that's great.
Jen, we got the whole bulb of garlic.
Yes.
And so you want to smash.
I would smash it, yeah. That's why. Oh, you know what?
That soup was delicious, by the way.
Oh, good. Okay. I'm actually gonna chop up the ginger and the turmeric in chunks. I forgot Marjorie said that. So I'm gonna do a big coarse chop. I'm gonna leave the skinny horseradish as is, but the other stuff I'm gonna chop up just a tad.
I cut it up too.
Oh my gosh, the orange of this turmeric is absolutely inspiring. It's so gorgeous.
Does the apple cider vinegar help the turmeric absorption?
You know, it probably does. It probably just can't answer that directly. What do you
It
know?
was one of those things where you always have to like,
Turmeric or something? You're supposed to do it with pepper and a fat.
yeah.
Yeah, so I imagine we're getting the pepper from like the ginger. And then, so some people do this fire cider in a broth, like a bone broth.
Oh.
Yeah, so you wouldn't bring it to a boil.
I've never thought about doing that.
Yeah, just kind of a
That's
nice
cool.
little way to incorporate it, I think.
That fat in there.
Yeah. So I'm glad that you mentioned that.
Yeah.
That's a really good idea,
It's
yeah.
like throwing kimchi in soup kind of thing too. Like I like that, the idea of just throwing something at the end without cooking.
All right.
So you make your own kimchi?
Do you make kimchi?
I haven't just
I-
had it in the past.
I've never tried to make kimchi before.
We just made sauerkraut and spicy carrots.
Oh, that was
fermented.
last week or?
That was in August.
Okay.
Yeah. But, yeah, I'll give you a printout. I don't have October's done yet, but, just so you know what classes are coming up.
Cool.
But some of us are junkies, like Laurel, she always comes. We just like it all.
How'd you get him out? There he is. There's another one.
I don't know what to do with
Ginger.
compost.
Bugs. What do you, oh, that's what's in All right.
Did you throw these at Julia's?
No, they were from my old place. I had them in the garden at the old place and then I, when I had about, I asked them to come off, mess with them and they said, come back here. Yeah. For bees, I didn't like worry about throwing watering.
That's what's making my eyes
I don't know, really.
Yeah, there's tons of.
All of
More?
it, actually. I would do a little bit more horseradish and a little bit more ginger, yeah.
Okay,
Yeah, because we're really gonna fill it up.
okay.
All right.
Need horseradish, Mark?
Yes, actually, there's some right there. Thank you. Got it.
So,
She had some extras over here.
got it.
Right now.
Oh, I'm sorry. Ooh, just chopping that is really strong. The horseradish? Wow. Yeah.
This is a really nice kilo.
Are you being sarcastic?
No.
Oh, good. I live with teenagers. I'm hardened.
Mine are so old and I should be getting a new one, but this is inspiring me to do that.
So a woman that lives in, or is moving back to Australia actually just told me that they have a different style of tubular and she can't stand the ones that we have over here. So I am like super curious what they have.
Tell her to send it back.
I know.
Yeah.
Show me what you got.
Show me your ways.
Okay, I am, I'm gonna do daredevil the bowl, I mean.
Horseradish?
Some of them are like,
Might bite you back.
I like it.
Oh, that's super interesting.
Yeah?
Okay, is this taking a long time?
Now it's like,
All right. Woo!
Yeah, a couple of these, like, as I'm doing like this, they made my
Some delayed reaction there.
That was delayed, yeah.
Garlic.
I actually think I'm gonna do some of these long guys though.
Yeah, I think there's.
I'm sure that there's different properties.
Probably.
Because it's also very strong.
So with the lemon, you peel it.
Yeah, you say it's like the size of like.
Oh, I see.
You know what? I was gonna check on that, cause that part I don't know.
I know that, I was looking at a recipe where you just slice the lemon
Yeah,
and is it lemon and garlic and then honey?
okay.
And just let it steep like that, but you put the kale and all.
Oh, you know what? It might be in the PowerPoint, because there's so many, qualities in the actual skin of the lemon, the rind, thank you. Let me look at the other recipes.
There was something about, on Facebook or somewhere about with a recipe of even cooking the onion with the skins on it. For flavoring.
Oh, wow. Yeah. So Donna had a really good question about the lemon. Like, do you peel it? Do you skin it? Kind of a thing. So I don't have that information 100%, but I'm going to leave the peel on because there's so many good phytonutrients and all that good stuff in the skin of the lemon, as long as it's organic and as long as it's washed. Okay. So hello, whoever just joined.
Do you want me to rinse it for you?
Yeah, we do.
Oh, she doesn't have audio yet.
We're just chunking the onion, right?
Yep. Just chunk it. It doesn't have to be, yeah. Hello, Patricia, welcome. We are getting ready, no, we are putting the fire cider together. So we've kind of gone through the PowerPoint, and now we're doing the working part. And if you look at this jar here, so far I've got turmeric, ginger, and horseradish in here, and we're just adding all of our ingredients. I'm about to do the lemon. So Patricia, do you have the ingredients at your house? Are you making this today?
It's getting full.
Of course, yeah.
I'm just going to watch this time. Thank you.
You're just watching today. Okay, great. Yeah. Well, I'm gonna try to put this over here for you to see every once in a while. It's so beautiful. We've got the orange turmeric, the yellow lemon, the yellow ginger, and then we're doing this horseradish. And the horseradish is just, knock your socks off how good it is. It's beautiful. This is from a local grower in Homer, Bob. So we're just peeling this away. All right. Okay, does anybody need any more horseradish? Ben's needing a job. What do you guys need Ben to do?
Sure, I only had two strands.
So actually, rather than the strands, Ben, why don't you work on a bulb? Like, so, because there's different properties in different parts of the plants. So we'll give her a little top part.
That would be awesome.
It's really pretty.
Turmeric's getting turned mine.
I know. Yeah, you might be orange tomorrow.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I know, I'm excited.
They were like red.
I think you've got enough, Holly, so you can just work on yourself.
Because of the smaller ones are like French something.
I'm like, my jar's getting too small.
There we go.
It's
Okay,
rough when the jar shrinks like that.
Yeah,
I'm gonna work on my onion.
probably makes sense for it to, your jar when I get a hold of one.
And Patricia, since you signed on late, if you can put it in chat if you'd like. I can email you the PowerPoint if you want to kind of go through it.
Gosh, I'm not sure if you get considered juice.
You don't have to.
There's no room.
Crush.
Are you using that jalapeno seed?
We're gonna use the whole jalapeno, yeah, yep, the whole shebang.
Oh, really?
Did you guys grill that garlic?
Oh, yeah, she
That's gorgeous.
yeah, they're really fat.
Wow, oh, wow, that's one clove?
Yeah.
That's what even is.
Wow, it's like almost like elephant garlic.
Yeah, but they're just,
Oh my
I
God.
think they're called like red kush, they're a variety that grow.
Oh, yeah? Like go up here?
Yeah, I grew it up.
Okay, so
Right next to it has the nice
Sitting in
seeds too,
there.
which is really yummy.
This is so pretty.
Yeah.
This is like,
You're fine
makes
over
me
there?
happy.
Yeah, we're the new house at mile 8.
Extra limes, Mom?
Do you keep the, horseradish greens?
How many?
Wow.
Mom,
Horse red, I'm gonna try, and there's a bag right there.
how many limes?
Yes.
Yes, one for a quart.
Okay. We can
Should I get onion?
Yeah, just as close to
That's
like
okay, I'll just
before
give you this one.
freeze. Oh, I guess I did a little after the frost, but like definitely before. I would do it like around now. Okay. Yeah, because you want to get it in and then it kind of has to like settle in.
Awesome.
So it usually takes some
Okay.
time where it won't start growing, but it can like settle in a bit. And then you want to cover it with like mulch, like hay or alder leaves, and then you want to like cover it for the winter. And then uncover it with.
Oh, look at you.
Remember your dad?
Yeah.
We're not killing.
Making my
Oh, I've already-
beige skin brown.
There you go.
Um, I got
My
some
hair.
rosemary, if anybody wants to add a little sprig. I've got enough for 4 people.
Yeah,
Do you want
I'll
some
take one.
rosemary?
If I can stick it in there.
Yeah, just in there. Oh, see, Donna, that's awesome.
I know, isn't it?
Love it. Anybody else want some rosemary?
I have some at home
Okay.
actually,
If
yeah.
nobody does, I'll take some of that.
I used to grow it down in Washington, of course, further.
We used
Now
to, we used to have a plant.
I'll just put it in there, actually.
Yeah.
Phoenix, and that one down.
Okay, right now?
All right.
Picking up a piece of decoration.
So here, maybe, does it grow here?
Let's see.
Or can you
Jalapenos, would
substitute,
wash?
number tea? Kind of totally different though, isn't
Yeah,
it?
but still delicious.
Yeah.
It does grow here, but not like
Yeah.
as happily.
Yeah.
Make it a mess.
Yes, I am.
Never like.
I'll have to ask my sister-in-law, maybe she's tried.
I feel like it might not, because it's so wet here, you know, not let it get all snowy. I don't know.
It's pretty wet and,
Well, snow is kind of an insulator too, so.
Yeah, they're really good.
I think this is really it.
yeah.
You
Actually,
can so show me the
So is the goal to be a lot, like completely full?
The goal is to have this pretty full, and then we're gonna just cover it with the apple cider vinegar. We're gonna cover it with the apple cider vinegar. You want it to all be covered by the vinegar. So sort of like when we did our fermented vegetables. If stuff is floating up to the top, we'll just have to like stuff it down and maybe get a weight too, yeah.
Can you share a little bit about why we're waiting to put the honey in?
I think because,
Well, sugar gets kind of cooked out when you put it in too early in anything. So I would, it stands to reason that maybe honey would lose its properties
Oh, okay.
also.
okay, yeah.
Interesting.
Yeah, and I also think that because a raw honey is a probiotic food, and so is the apple cider vinegar, they would be competing. So we're kind of fermenting this. This isn't like a real fermented brew necessarily, but we're like lightly just kind of pulling it out with that astringent. And then the honey, just in its raw state, is so medicinal on its own. That we're just adding that like as
So do you,
after it's cooked.
oh,
You
okay.
know what I mean?
Yeah.
So then when you're ready to add honey, do you pull all of this out?
Yeah, we're gonna strain this all off.
So that may be another reason, because then you wouldn't, the honey would probably get clog it up and try
Oh,
to
there you
strain
go.
it.
Yep, it probably would.
Okay.
You had honey too soon, the cooking too far away.
Up there if you want.
Mhm.
Well, it's not even sweet.
And I have, another.
No?
I can put some more.
I'm just helping everyone else. I'm just finding a jar to stick it in. Oh, yeah.
I wanna go home and get a bigger jar.
Yeah.
So,
And I'll get some of those and,
2 more questions.
You can,
I don't have room.
oh, you don't have room. Oh, yeah, we'll take a jalapeno or two, and if you're gonna do it in a bigger jar. Do you wanna do a bigger jar tonight? I just saw your little vinegar, so I gave you a 1 quart.
I'll just finish doing it at home.
Are you sure? Cause I'll give you
Yeah.
a 2 quart right now. It's yours today, Donna.
Okay. I'll take it.
So, okay, sold. This one's actually even already washed, so there you go. If you wanna use this, that'll.
This would be a good crop.
So Jennifer, is this refrigeration required, shelf stable?
After, okay, so what we're gonna do is we're gonna keep this at, like at a warm room temperature for about a month. So if that's possible, so like a warm room temperature, I'm thinking like 70.
Yeah.
And then we're gonna strain it off, and we're gonna put it in a little, you know, maybe we'll put it back in our little vinegar thing, so it's easy to pour off every day kind of a thing. Add the honey to it, and then you'll put it in the refrigerator. I think we put it in the refrigerator. I can get back to you on that. There's probably no need to put it in the refrigerator.
Some that I've had for a long time is pretty shelf stable.
Yeah.
Like it doesn't mold or anything. I know. We're in it
Did
here.
you grow those too?
No. But I wouldn't be surprised if they're like, it would
I bet
preserve
it's self-stable with honey and vinegar. Yeah, okay, forget the fridge. And seriously, yeah, vinegar, for sure.
It's your pantry, is it? Oh, yeah.
It's a traditional recipe, refrigeration is not required. What you need?
I think I'm
You
good.
got jalapenos in there?
No, I don't want help.
Oh, okay.
My wife won't touch that.
I have all
But other than that, I got everything.
Okay.
Just
You
need
can
to
just
put
add more.
Add more.
Yeah.
So I wasn't able to find organic
Form either.
Okay, so I have.
Did you get those? Yeah,
That's the regular stuff.
Wow. So beautiful. I'm gonna do some more. Do you want some more ginger?
But whatever.
Right? Yeah, fill it up. Okay, so probably in about 5 minutes, you guys, as we're kind of wrapping up and there's no hurry at all, we're gonna shift gears here just a little bit. So every 4th Thursday of the month, every 4th Thursday, the topic is put it up for winter. So that's exactly what we're doing right now. This is put it up for winter, right? And so with that, I really wanted to combine this whole concept of really preparing for kind of anything, you know, like an earthquake, a tsunami, an alien abduction. We have to be ready for all of it. So I have been able to convince Mark Ball, our emergency preparedness guy here at SVT. He's gonna lay it out for what every Alaskan family is really recommended to keep on hand. For like a 3-day supply, a 2-week supply, and then just kind of thinking long-term about how to be sustainable with our preparedness.
Okay.
So, and there's no rush, Mark, if you're not done with your.
Well, I can always come back later.
Okay,
I do have something to share, so
yeah.
I'll have to stop sharing.
Oh, gotcha, yeah. Yeah, so, I'm gonna move the camera over to you, Mark, okay? Do you give consent to be on camera?
Yes, I've been on camera many times. So, yeah, I'm Mark Ball, I'm the tribe's emergency manager. And what I wanted to talk today about is there's a great program that the State Emergency Operations Center puts on for Preparing a Year. If you'd like more information, we'll be happy to get that to you. But this, I took some snippets out of the plan to present this to you. So the way it is, they have it broken down. So every month there's a topic. And you can go through, take an hour or two a month and focus on that topic. And then in a year, you can be prepared to be self-sufficient. Because when an emergency happens, the local resources are going to be busy trying to handle the situation and take care of people that can't take care of themselves. So the more prepared you are, the more you help us to help those that can't be prepared. So I know that for many years, they talked about a 72-hour kit, be ready for 3 days. And then we as emergency managers notice that when an event happens and we're working through it and it's a prolonged event, come day 3, all of a sudden the community's in an uproar because we haven't resolved it yet. Well, it's because they've gone through their resources. So what they've decided, they then switched gears and they decided to have everyone be ready for 7 days. And so try to get more resources and be ready to take care of yourself for 7 days. And there's actually a handout over at the end of the table that's an emergency preparedness survival kit for 7 days. And with that, what it does is it will break down over a 24-week period, and you can take however long it takes you to do it. But if you take care of those items, put stuff away, get everything in order, then you can be ready. Well, then 7 days was good, but they've determined that 3 days is good, 7 days is better, but 14 days is really the best if you can help out. So if you can get up to 14 days ready, that would help out a lot more. Again, those handouts are at the end of the table. We're going out of sequence right now, so we're not going to focus on September, which is under the bed. That's a different topic. We just want to try to introduce you to the Preparing a Year. So what we want to focus on is the February one, which is an action plan, and that's my puppy there. So communications plan. In the handout, there's communications plan. And it's important to have a communications plan because, I mean, let's face it, we all have our phones. So if we need somebody, we just pull up their name and we press the button and call them. But what if your power goes out and it's been out for 3-4 days and your phone's dead? Then what? Like, I communicate with my best friend down in Phoenix daily. Do I know his phone number? No, I don't. But I have it written down in my kit. My kit, which we'll talk about later. I have all my contacts written down on paper, in there, so in the event something happens, I have it. So communications plan. Meet with your family members, come up with a communications plan. How are you going to talk to each other in the event of emergency? If something were to happen in an emergency, or if there wasn't meant to happen, as I'm sure you've experienced, the cell towers just blow up. Phone lines go down because everybody's trying to call out. The best recommendation I can give is send a text message. So when you send a text message, what your phone does is it packages it up in a little bit of data and it waits for a tower signal. And then once it gets the signal, it will send it there. Now the tower may hold it for a little while, but once it gets enough bandwidth available, then it will send it on. So there's been emergencies I've heard from emergency managers in Anchorage where they would have an incident, they would send out a message, hey, everyone come in. Well, everyone came in and handled the incident, and then 2 days later, everyone else was coming back in and they're like, what's going on? You sent us a message saying to come in. Well, they sent it 2 days ago, but it took that long to get it. So when you send messages, also kind of put a date and time. I sent it this time and send it. So if it takes days to get there, they will get it. It's also good, as you can see in the little diagram there of the cell phones, to have somebody outside the area. So like my best friend who's in Phoenix, my wife, and when my daughters grew up here, they also knew that in an emergency, if we would text each other, but we would also contact him. So he knew what was going on. And then if I couldn't reach my wife, he knew what was going on. If she couldn't reach me, she would contact him and he would relay messages. So it's always good to have a loop. We're done a loop there. So come up with a communications plan and make sure everybody knows it. If you have small children in the house, make sure they understand and know what it is that's expected of them. So let's talk about evacuation planning. What type of evacuation could we have? Tsunami. We get those quite often, unfortunately. Fortunately, 99.9% of the time they're false alarms, but they do happen. But what if your house catches on fire and you need to evacuate the house? Where are you going to meet up? Think about that. So I think at my house, well, meet up at the vehicles. But what if the vehicles are threatened and the keys are in the house and I can't get to them? Well, maybe we should meet at the end of the driveway, which is a good place to meet, unless it's raining or snowing. Maybe I'll go to the barn. So I have that plan in my head. I need to make sure my family knows that. And practice it too. So work it out with your family. This is the primary location to meet up is going to be at the end of the driveway. Unless the weather's bad, and then we're going to go to the barn or go to the shop, someplace separate. Make those plans and make it known. Again, you want to plan those things beforehand. Make sure that everybody is aware of that. And also think about if you have to evacuate for a wildfire. How are you going to go? Are you going to drive? Are you going to buy four-wheeler? Are you going to go on foot? Think about those things that how are you going to get out? If you hear that something is brewing, if there's a lot of wildfires and they're coming this way, make sure you have fuel in your vehicles. Keep your tanks topped up so that you can go. And make sure you go in plenty of time. Don't wait till the last minute. Because traffic may be terrible and you can't get out and you get trapped. That's a bad situation to be in. So plan it out beforehand. So again, during the evacuation, think about where you're going to meet up. And again, communicate that with your family. Where are you going to meet up? Are you going to go to a local shelter? Is your community going to put up a local shelter? Those are things you may want to know about. I know Homer has the plans in place for that, but in acting it, sometimes it takes a while. So a shelter may not immediately be available. What other options do you have? Well, if you have friends, you could go to their place. Or if you have local family, you can go to their place. Make sure that they know to expect you. Don't just show up on somebody's door and expect them to take you in. They probably will, but they may be having an issue themselves. So again, communication and planning for that. And then after the incident, just because the wildfire has gone through the area doesn't mean it's safe to come back, or just because the earthquake has stopped and there's no more shaking, doesn't necessarily mean that it's safe to come back. The hillside may be loose and getting ready to come down. Maybe down power lines. You don't ever want to approach a down line, no matter what. It could be a phone line. It could be nothing. It could be on, it could be off. Don't risk it. It's not worth it. So think about those things. Listen to the local authorities. They will tell you what to do when to come back. So again, develop your plans and practice them. Because you'd be surprised at how many plans you put together and you think, this is great. And then when you actually go to put it into effect, you realize it's not feasible. Or you think of it a better way to do it. Put that in your plan and practice, and always update. Try to do it at least once a year, if not once every 6 months. And then we're going to talk about grab and go kits. You know, like I handed out, there's those different kits, but there's also this one handout that has a list. Now, this isn't an exhaustive list. You can definitely get a lot more items than this. Get what is good for you. And if you have small kids, encourage them to make their own. Because what's important to them may not be what's important to you. They may have a whole bag of stuffed animals, but that's important to them. Okay? Let them do it. Let them be a part of it, and let them enable them to, or empower them to be self-sufficient instead of being helpless and afraid. So with that, again, we talked about the 3-day kits, the 7-day kits, the 14-day kits. When it comes to a grab and go kit, plan for 2, maybe 3 days. And if you're looking at a gallon of water a day, that can get kind of heavy pretty quickly. Little shameless plug, we have a program that we call Ready, Set, Go that we're going to be starting back up here in the next couple months, hopefully. And once a month, it's based out of Soldovia, but we do stream it as well. And we have different preparedness topics. Sometimes we bring in guest speakers to talk about different things. And if you attend 3 of them, we give you one of these buckets for emergency preparedness. And it comes with some of the stuff, but this is a start to it. Then add stuff to your bucket. And it's a neat little bucket. The lid has a little different feature on it. So you can use it for that. But it comes with water and stuff. I've added a safety straw. There's packs of water. There's a fire starter. There's all sorts of those different things that you put in here. And you can get these. And in an emergency, to keep this by the front door, I can grab it and go. Then I also have this neat little case, very inexpensive on Amazon, and it's fireproof. And it has all my important documents, passports, vehicle titles, marriage license, Social Security card, everything that if I were to lose in a fire would be devastating. And if there's an emergency, if there's an earthquake, tsunami, volcano erupts, and you need to prove anything, this is what you need. And again, I have this station where I can just grab it and go. But if, heaven forbid, if my house catches fire, it's safe, it's fireproof. So those are some little topics, and there's all kinds of different items you can get. And the more prepared you are, again, the more you help us to help you. Is there any questions for me? Yes.
So Mark, where do you keep the fire, your fire container, the fire briefcase?
Document.
In your house, like where do you keep it so that if like your house burnt down and the firefighters came, where would they look to find it?
It would be at, I keep it by my front door.
Okay,
You put in the Arctic entry on top of that bucket, so
Oh,
I
wow.
can grab the two and go.
okay.
You can keep things in your car. There's different kits for cars. Actually, I should have exited it. Oh, let me stop sharing. So, yeah, that's what I do. I keep it right there. Wife has her bucket. We have emergency food supplies. So, because you never know. It can happen. All right. Let's continue on with our fire cider.
Marty, thank you so much. Thank you. I almost was in a hot dog today.
Yeah, they don't want to see me doing this.
Anyway,
They do.
where did you get your fireproof thingamabanger?
Amazon.
Amazon? Okay.
Have you tested it yet?
No, I have not tested it.
Well, that's an interesting question because I know that, the metal ones that they used to have, you get,
Yep.
when they burn things inside got charred badly.
Yeah, because it
Oh,
got through the
they just got
little-
too hot.
Yeah.
That would make sense. I mean, I guess there's only so much we can do,
Yeah.
right? But,
Have more than one copy.
okay, so I actually do have a crazy question.
Yeah.
Okay, so I believe that New York City actually just put out a advertisement about what to do in the case of a nuclear
Yes,
fallout, or I
they
don't know what
are.
you call it.
They're focusing on that. Yes.
So could you speak to that a little, Mark?
That's-
Not New
that's-
York, but I mean, like, really, okay, so worst case scenario, we don't want to think about it, but maybe let's think about it for just a second.
Okay, that is actually a very good question. I know that when I was emergency manager down in, or an emergency management down in Arizona, I was with liaison with the State Operations Center. And every year we had an exercise with Palo Verde Nuclear Power Plant, which was a few miles down the highway. And there were exercises about release of radioactive material, and what would you do? The local communities would get together, and they have what's called the Strategic National Stockpile, the SNS, Strategic National Stockpile, where the government has a bunch of different resources, medical equipment, medications, stuff like that, and they have them stationed throughout the country. And with that, in an incident, they would just dispense those resources. The local communities put together points of dispensing, which we actually did during COVID, where we had the different lines set up where people go through to get the COVID swabs. And then also when we've done the COVID injections, the vaccinations, where you go through, you get your information. And basically it's kind of like when you do flu, if you've ever been to a flu shot clinic, where you come through, you get your paperwork, you fill it out, you make sure you answer any health questions, you go through, somebody reviews it, and then you take the medication, whatever it is that is for you. So there are those plans in place. For a nuclear event, they would issue iodine. And they would have that. We with SVT Health and Wellness, we have an agreement with the city of Homer that we would help them with their point of dispensing for the communities. And we have a memo of understanding with public health to be the point of dispensing in Soldovia, because we're the only medical clinic in town in Soldovia. So we would work with them, they would supply us with those resources, and we would give them out to the community.
So, go ahead, Donna.
So we live 8 miles out, and it's in the Bitts Creek area, and there used to be a community center there, and now it's a store. So in the cases of remoteness, like in Nome just washed out the roads.
Right.
And
They're still working on that. Yes.
yeah, and so what if that happened here and we were out there and couldn't get to town? There would be hopefully a setup for that.
There hopefully would be. The last I read of the Homer plan, for the Homer area, including Fritz Creek, the designated location for the point of dispensing is Homer High School. And they actually would go into the high school. They have different rooms designated, all that as to where they would go to take care of it. There's a triage area, and they have that set up. In Anchor Point, it's Chapman School. And in Soldovia would be our clinic.
So out there would be that school out there.
Well, we don't have that in plan at this moment, but if the threat is here in Homer, they're not going to ask you to come from Fritz Creek from the safe area into what's considered the hot zone to get the medications you don't need because you're not threatened. And if there were something to happen out there and you couldn't get into town, I know we would come up with plans to do something, even if it's just a pop up on the side of the road. Yes.
I have questions about iodine, but maybe we can't answer those tonight. But I think that one of the key things is to really identify a group of people, that are logistically close to you, and people that you just know you've got their back and they haven't got yours. I think that COVID has really put a wall between us in many ways. But I think it's a good idea to kind of get to know your neighbors, or, figure out who your group is. And I'm not saying, I'm not going that far, but go that far if you want to. But, know your people, get your phone numbers, write them down actually so they're not lost in your phone. And really think about so if you're washed out and you can't get to us, who are you going to rely on, Worst case scenario. It's just worst case scenarios.
That's a great point. I'm glad you brought that up, because that is something to think about, especially if you have neighbors that may have mobility issues.
Yeah.
Keep them in mind and look out for them. And so if there were something like that was to happen and we had to come and get medications, get their information and get it for them. Because the goal is to get everyone taken care of quickly.
Yeah, just have that. Yeah, and hopefully it's a no-brainer. Janet and I are really good friends, and we live close together. So if something were to happen, it's just a no-brainer. Janet, come to my house, sort of a thing. So with that,
Or vice versa.
yeah, definitely.
Yes, help each other out.
Yeah. So anyway, I think on our, put it up for winter stuff, so we'll always be doing something like this, the fire cider. And then just really kind of touching in on little things like that to prepare for, not just always the worst case scenario, but just really preparing. Like we could have, I mean, inflation, let's just talk about inflation for a second. Like groceries are getting really expensive, you know, life is a little crazy right now. So I think it's important to just start thinking about, you know, how we can be self-sufficient and help each other out. And if somebody falls on hard times, then what sort of planning can be in place, you know? Like, you need a ride, get a ride, kind of a thing. Gas is expensive, all that stuff, so. All right, Mark, thank you so much.
You're welcome.
Yeah.
And if you have any questions, please, let me know.
Yeah.
I'm always available.
And
Are you based in Homer or in Caledonia?
I'm actually based here. I'm in Homer. My office is upstairs. Yeah, so if you ever need anything, stop by, ask for me, I'll be more than happy to come talk.
okay, so our fire cider, what we're gonna do is make sure everything is tucked in underneath, right? And I'm gonna put a lid on this as soon as I find my lid, that's not mine. Room temperature, a warm room temperature for, about a month, thank you. It can be as little as 2 weeks, it can be as long as 6 weeks, so 2 to 6 weeks, so I'm just saying about a month. And then you're gonna strain it off and add honey to taste. Okay.
Is it has to be really full of stuff? Okay, so I'll probably have to.
Well, no, just weight it down if it's not full of stuff. You just wanna make sure everything underneath is covered by the vinegar.
So just put some heavy on?
Yeah, you can do that. Yeah, like, I'm trying to think what you could put in there. I mean, I've started buying some things like little springs on Amazon, weights. People use rocks as weights. You can put a cabbage leaf over the top. That's a really nice weight. Like when you're fermenting, you can kind of tuck the leaf around. So, and if you want a cabbage leaf, I've got some in the fridge I can give you. And yeah.
I just like to double up on stuff.
Or double up, right? Do it. Yeah, exactly. So, all right. And then next week, we're gonna have our community potluck. And then we'll just roll into October. From there, so. Thanks for coming, everybody.
So is it primarily vegetarian?
The potluck? The potluck?
Primary.
No. I just make my sweets vegetarian because I don't want to like make it so some people can't eat it, you know, because those of us that are meat eaters we can have the vegetarian.
Put this lid on and it almost went in.
Oh no, I did take your lid. Okay, well I know it exists. We're missing a wide mouth lid.
Oh.